I was asked to do a video on my thoughts on Bitcoin. So I've spent a good amount of time trying to think of how to compress this into like 5-6 minutes. And I don't know if I'm going to succeed. I'm going to try though. Bitcoin is a monetary unit of measurement, right? And that's what your goal is, to have the most accurate unit of measurement you can have that's consistent. And then what that does is that allows for the market to be grounded. So if you remember a while back, I mentioned this, that value is subjective. Valuation is subjective. All value is subjective. So think of that as the positive post on a battery, okay? Well, in order for electricity to work, you need to have a negative or a ground. You have to have something to ground that. This is where you get the idea of a grounded current, or what I would call a grounded currency, okay? Meaning that a unit of measurement that's fixed, all right? So as in an older video, I don't know, 3-4 days ago, I said gold was used, and the reason gold was used was because you either had it or you didn't. It was either pure or it wasn't, but either weighed or it didn't. That's it. So in the case of Bitcoin, it has the same properties, except you don't have to carry around a bar scale, an acid kit, a core sample drill, a file of sandpaper. You don't have to carry around a little bag of gold dust, outlaw Josie Wales style to go buy groceries. Okay, Bitcoin allows it to be digital, but if it's decentralized and can't be counterfeited, that's actually what you're after. That's what gives you that grounding. It gives you a standardized unit of measurement, just like troy ounces, okay, in the case of gold or silver. It's a standardized unit of measurement. And so Bitcoin gives you that. It gives you that property, but it gives you the additional additional aspect of being able to be portable, in that you can transact with someone on the other side of the world. As opposed to gold, where if you were going to transact with somebody on the other side of the world, in the case of gold, you would have to go to a third party and then give them your physical gold, and then they would, you'd be right back in the rat race before too long. Before you know it, the third parties would not be trusted anymore. The third parties would start counterfeiting gold. They'd start creating tungsten bars. They'd start double counting the gold. They start manipulating the amount of notes that are in circulation, and you're right back in the rat race. Bitcoin prevents that. By virtue of its existence, and since everybody can audit it. So no matter who you are, no matter where you are, you can run a full node and you can keep the record of immutable truth. That is an extreme positive, okay? And so because value is subjective, you can now argue about valuations all you want. Now everybody can argue about valuations, but you have an opportunity with Bitcoin to have a grounded currency, to have something that it isn't going to change, right? So in other words, your positive is all over the place, but your neutral or your negative or your ground is stuck. It's right there. It's a fixed unit of monetary measurement. This is a major positive for the working class. This for real. If I'm talking to anybody who's working class, anybody who has to show up and do a job that they don't want to do, for people they don't like, to go live a lifestyle they don't want, kind of thing. If I'm talking to the working class, okay, you benefit the most by having a currency that they then can't steal back 10, 20, 30% inflation every single year. Or, on the average, it's been something like 14% since the 80s, on an annualized basis. So you're getting your money, so you're being paid money, but then it's being stolen back from you, right? You also have the advantage that it is much more difficult to tax Bitcoin as a transaction, okay? So if you're trying to transfer it into USD, that activity, it's a lot easier to try and tax that activity. But if you never transfer it back to USD and you're just transacting in Satoshis among each other, right, then it makes it near impossible for governments to really get in there and well, I mean, how if I send you 50,000 Satoshis, right, directly to your wallet, and you send me an old Sony Walkman that you had sitting around your house. There is no way to really know. You can say that the transaction happened, but there's no way to know what that transaction was about. I could have just sent you that for no reason. I could have just said, oh, I'm just going in. So there's that to consider. And think of it this way. This is another way to think of this. When you want to buy oil, you have to buy USD first. You have to buy US dollars first. That gives the US government the privilege of being able to export its inflation to whoever is buying USD first. And then they can go and buy oil. It becomes a two-pronged transaction. That's why do you think that Putin, right, wanted people to buy rubles first before they bought his oil or his natural gas? It's because it gives them the opportunity to export their inflation. And other countries are starting to catch wise to this. Even other people, like a lot of folks who didn't follow this stuff for many years are starting to wake up and see how this is going. So, or how this scam works. Well, Bitcoin ends all of that. It means that, well, okay, you either, it just becomes one of these, like, you either have it or you don't. That's it, right? It's on the ledger, and you either have Bitcoin or you don't have Bitcoin. So when an employer pays you, right, they say, okay, yeah, we're going to pay you X amount of sats to do this job, and you do the job, and then they send it to your wallet. That's it. That's the end of it. And you have a currency that doesn't inflate. By definition, it itself can't inflate. The working class, of course, is benefited by this the most, because now there's no way to take back any of their money. There's no way to say, yeah, I'm going to pay you $25 an hour and then steal, 10% a year from you in inflation, making your wage, not $20 an hour, making it $18 an hour. And because people are, so this is where I go into, and actually, this is where I'll transition now into kind of my other opinion on Bitcoin, which is that a lot of people are addicted to the idea of largesse. They're addicted to the idea of infinite resources. They're addicted to the idea of having a currency like the dollar that can be printed on nothing, and people still consider it to be valuable. Well, yeah, the people who have lots of dollars and can get the money first, right? The people who are at the fountainhead of the printing press, for them it's a great deal, right? They have printing press privilege. For everybody else, not so much. We're kind of hosed, right? So this is the way to think about that. That when you have a currency that can't be manipulated, of course these people are not going to be very happy. So the propaganda is going to be all about, like I just saw Jamie Dimon go on about, oh, it's evil, it's the devil, etc. Yeah, says, and they're in front of Congress, yeah, saying this in a room full of, Epstein's buddies, like, like I'm going to take any financial advice from some ass clown that's raping children on an island. So that is something to think about. A lot of people are addicted to the idea of the illusion of wealth that fiat currencies provide, but it's not something that benefits, again, the working class. As soon as the working class say, no, hey, I'm going to need you to pay me in something that you can't just conjure out of nothing. You can't just print it out of nothing. If I show up and do any work for you, you are going to have to start paying me in a currency that you have to go get. And it's very important to understand the difference between having somebody have to go get the currency to pay you, rather than them just print a bunch of money and give it to you, and then you have to go and try and source currency. There is a difference there. It's not a subtle difference. It's a very big difference. If every person in the working class right now, on the bottom half of our entire economy that's getting crushed right now with inflation, if you all immediately said, nope, I'm not showing up until you pay me in real currency, it would be the biggest wake-up call this world has ever seen. And any currency that can't be printed on nothing, it would change things very rapidly. And, you'd all be called terrorists and so on. You'd be called, supremacists and whatever the fuck other words that they, make up, in Nazis and shit like that, just whatever. Anybody who threatens their power source gets called all kinds of names. We'll see you next time.